Good morning.
Yes, good morning. So can we start our training session for today now?
Do we start at 9 or 9:30?
We'll start at 9.
Good morning.
9.
Yeah. Yes.
Just a moment.
So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Lu, Program Officer from the International Development Department of CIMA Track, and I will be the moderator for today's section. Let me start by giving you a brief information about our modular online training program. So our program constitutes of 4 modules. For Module 1, we have Educational Leadership and Management. Module 2, Teacher Leadership and Management. Module 3, Curriculum, Instruction and Assessment. And Module 4, which we will cover today on soft skills. So for today's section, we will have 2 topics: interpersonal skills in the workplace and problem solving in decision-making skills at work. So before we start, I would like to mention a little housekeeping rules. Our webinar is video recorded, so please watch and listen to the video. This video will be less than 30 minutes. If you have any questions during the video, kindly type them into the chat box. After the video, we will have some time for questions and answers with our trainer, Dr. Anita. For our presenter today is Dr. Anita Klapano-Oblina. Dr. Anita obtained her doctorate degree in educational planning and management in the Philippines and had been in the field of education and engaged in administrative functions back in the Philippines. She was the assistant to the academic vice president at Xavier University in 2014 and dean of faculty and academic affairs at Finma Cayugan de Oro College from 2015 to 2017. She came back to CIMA Track in 2018 as a senior education specialist and has been working as a curriculum developer, instructional materials designer, trainer, researcher, and lecturer. She is very passionate about advancing the leadership and management skills of the school leaders, managers, administrators, and teachers in Southeast Asia. Before turning over to Dr. Anita to have some words with you, I would like to request everyone to turn on your camera for a photo shoot. We will take 3 shots. Okay, for shot number 1. For our second shot. And for our third shot. Thank you very much. The pictures are very wonderful. So, and now, Dr. Anita, the floor is yours for some words with our dear participants.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Chow, for your kind introduction. And to our participants, we welcome you so much for this Module 4. This is our last module topics, last topics for Module 4. So we are going to have 2 topics: interpersonal skills in the workplace and problem solving and decision-making skills at work. As already said, this is a video recorded, and I would like to invite you to watch the video and looking forward to your questions or maybe insights and ideas after watching the video. So at this point in time, can we now play the video? Hi everyone, welcome to the last 2 topics of our Module 4, Topic 15, Interpersonal Skills in the Workplace, and Topic 16, Problem Solving and Decision-Making Skills at Work. We will start with Topic 15, Interpersonal Skills in the Workplace. We are going to explore the 3 key points. They are as follows. Are interpersonal skills necessary in the workplace? Which interpersonal skills are critical for success at work? And how can interpersonal skills in the workplace be improved? Are interpersonal skills necessary in the workplace? Bring yourself back to your childhood playground. Do you recall what happened to the kids who didn't play well, didn't share, and generally behaved unruly? Other children were resentful of them and refused to play with them. If you don't have good interpersonal skills, you may find yourself in a situation similar to this one in the workplace. Indeed, interpersonal skills are necessary in the workplace. In the workplace, employees with good interpersonal skills are likely more productive than those with poor interpersonal skills because of their propensity to project a positive attitude and look for solutions to problems. For example, your inability to work and interact well with others can be bad for your job. No one will recommend you or consider you for promotion or think of you when they see an opportunity, even though you are perfectly qualified. You may be an incredible head teacher, program director, or marketing manager, but if you are unpleasant and stressful person to deal with, the value of your technical skills diminishes. Interpersonal skills are behaviors and qualities we showcase when communicating with others. We use these skills daily when interacting with people face to face. Some examples of interpersonal skills are verbal communication skills, nonverbal communication skills, listening skills, empathy skills, negotiation skills, problem-solving skills, decision-making skills, assertion skills, among others. Those with good interpersonal skills are strong verbal and nonverbal communicators and are often considered to be good with people. Simply put, interpersonal skills are people skills. Do teachers need interpersonal skills in the workplace? The answer is yes. Teachers need strong interpersonal skills in order to work collaboratively and communicate effectively with individuals and groups such as students, parents, colleagues, and administrators. Students. The teacher must possess skills to understand students who may have family problems that affect their academic performance. She must possess skills to build a caring relationship with students regardless of color, ethnicity, disadvantaged, academically challenged, religious beliefs, and other status to maximize learning. A simple skill such as realizing the importance of learning students' names can go a long way towards making the teaching process run more smoothly and effectively. An empathetic and patient teacher can help students learn and grow effectively in their education. Parents. The teacher must possess skills to gently let the mother know that her son is failing algebra again, or comfort the mother who is crying because her daughter can't take the examination due to the financial problem. When this happens, the teacher must possess the interpersonal skills necessary to avoid being drawn into an unproductive conflict and resolve or exit the situation gracefully. Colleagues. Teacher must understand that gossip and power struggles are everywhere. Dealing with a teaching colleague who is preoccupied with becoming department chair or a bossy administrative secretary can be challenging for a teacher with poor interpersonal skills. A teacher must be able to walk with the fine line between advocating for their students' best interests and keeping the peace with her co-workers. Strong interpersonal skills are a key indicator of success in a working environment, as benefits include the ability to cooperate with teammates to solve difficult problems, as well as simply enhancing popularity around the office. And administrators. The goals of a teacher and a principal are often at odds with one another. A teacher may believe a disruptive student needs to be suspended, while the principal is satisfied with sending him back to class after a stern talking. Any teacher who attempts to deal with these and similar situations without effective interpersonal skills is likely to not only alienate the administration, but accomplish very little of what she needs out to do in the educational environment. With that in mind, allow me to proceed to the second key point of my presentation, which interpersonal skills are critical for success at work. Within the workplace context, which is more than often a team-oriented environment, interpersonal skills have proven itself to be vital in any aspects of the operation. Possessing a great level of interpersonal skills will give the employee the advantage of dealing with group projects, oiling the wheels of any interaction, and handling discord. Some of the major components that make up a person's interpersonal skills are communication, active listening, empathy, problem solving, and the ability to be open to feedback. These skills are not something that could be learned overnight. Rather, interpersonal skills should be cultivated with constant efforts on a daily basis. We look at them closely. Communication skills. Having clear communication, both verbal and non-verbal, is the foundation of any strong and resilient organization. Tasks could only be carried out and completed proficiently when communication is there to keep everyone in the loop about the expectation and requirements regarding the job. Communication is also essential in voicing your concerns and issues to higher management within the chain. A culture of transparency and clarity throughout the entire mechanism is what leads an organization to greater success. Listening skills. Monitoring your listening skills could also facilitate communication, especially at workplace. Active listening shows your boss and fellow colleagues your level of engagement during both formal meetings and informal discussions. Plus, paying close attention to information being shared by others at work could make them feel more valued and respected, which would strengthen your relationship with them and collaborate with ease. Empathy. Empathy is of essence to workplace atmosphere. Employees will be reluctant to come to work if their boss and colleagues do not practice compassion and show understanding to the difficulties they might have been facing. This quality can be found among people that are highly intuitive with a great grasp of emotions. Empathy and understanding enables you to relate and express sympathy towards people's problems at work, as well as help you get along with them. Problem-solving skills. It's fair to say that most our time at work is spent dealing with tasks and solving problems stemming from them. We could all agree that it's an inherent part of any job, and the ability to be prepared and ready to solve any of these problems is indispensable. Honing your problem solving skills could significantly facilitate your process of working your way up the career ladder, since it is one of the most important qualities people at the top management should possess. And openness to feedback. People who easily get defensive towards different perspectives and feedback often lack interpersonal skills. It is important to listen to feedback in order to get a better understanding of your piece of work from a variety of perspectives and to adjust or apply new ideas when feasible. This is a highly needed practice in the process of refining your piece of work as well as enhanced productivity. Those are some of the primary components that make up an individual's interpersonal skills at work. Having said, let me go on to the last key point of my presentation. How can interpersonal skills in the workplace be improved? Here are some suggestions for how you can continue to develop your interpersonal skills as well as build a community with your colleagues. These are all within your sphere of influence and are actions you can start taking right now. Tips for improving interpersonal skills are: master communication skills, pay attention to body language, listen with an expansive mind, solicit feedback, practice empathy, expand your cultural competence, and address conflict. Master communication skills. What does good work communication look like? It's clear. The recipient understands what is important, why, and what action they need to take. But the fundamental principle of all communication should be respect the other party. What does that mean in workplace communication? Communicating with a colleague, a boss, or a customer is not an opportunity to show how smart or superior you are. Effective communication is about the needs of the listener. While it may seem counterintuitive, a listener-first approach will often help you structure the delivery of your message. Pay attention to body language. Nonverbal communication may say more than the words that emerge from our mouth. Often, the messages we seek to communicate are delivered in our pitch, tone, volume, pace, and body language. To build community, we need to examine our own nonverbal expressions and consider how we interpret those of others. We can sometimes miscommunicate through our body language, causing problems like these. When we talk with someone and perceive a mismatch between his selection of words and his nonverbal communication, our trust in him diminishes. When our own body language doesn't match what we are saying, others won't trust us as much. If we can't read a person's nonverbal communication, we feel uncomfortable around her. When we misinterpret someone else's body language, we can miss an opportunity for connection or can even take actions that have a negative impact on the other. How do you communicate kindness, compassion, curiosity? How do you interpret the nonverbal communication of others? Does your interpretation cause you to become more curious and compassionate, or to shut down and create distance with the other person? You can build community by simply heightening your awareness of your body language and how you interpret the body language of others. Listen with an expansive mind. Where does your mind go when you're listening? Sometimes, perhaps, you're closely attending to what a speaker is saying, keeping your heart open. Other times, your mind may wander to a place of judgment or impatience, or maybe you want to jump in and offer solutions and advice. Listening lies at the center of healthy social relationships. Create a mental model of the information, whether it be a picture or an arrangement of abstract concepts. Listen to keywords and phrases, and do not rehearse what you are going to say after the speaker is done talking. Think about what the other person is saying rather than what you are going to respond with. It is difficult to think of what you're going to say while also listening to the speaker. Be attentive and relaxed. Don't get distracted by your own thoughts and feelings. Make sure to maintain eye contact and face the speaker to give your attention. Don't be judgmental while listening. Don't interrupt the speaker. Employ active listening techniques and think about what the other person is saying and not what you should respond with. Listening with expansive mind means listening with hope, curiosity, and compassion. It means listening for opportunities to deepen and strengthen relationships with an irate parent, a disrespectful student, or a contentious colleague. You can do this by maintaining eye contact with the speaker, nodding your head, and repeating what he or she says in your own words. The speaker will feel respected, and you're likely to be able to recall the conversation more easily afterwards. If people come to you, give space and listen. At times, people just want to express and they don't even bother about solutions from you. They want a good listener. Be a good listener. When we listen expansively, we are poised to build strong community. Solicit feedback. In doing things that matter, try asking for feedback. Whether you're working with a mentor or in a group training environment, try asking for feedback on your work performance for improvement. Try asking specific questions about scenarios and interactions to help you progress as effectively as possible. Practice empathy. Gain a well-rounded view of things by putting yourself in other people's shoes. This will help you develop empathy for others, which in turn goes a long way in finding solutions that work for all involved. Try gracefully mirroring others' ideas and even their posture to show that you are interested in them and that you understand their perspective. This can help support more pleasant and productive interactions. Expand your cultural competence. Cultural competence is the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems different from yours. It is the ability to navigate cross-cultural differences in order to do something, be that collaborate with colleagues or socialize with friends. The differences can be generational, racial, gendered, national, regional, and so on. Cultural competence helps to build strong community in the workplace. And address conflict. Conflict can either strengthen or undermine a community, but most of us are conflict averse and lack skills to deal with it. While there's so much we need to learn about how to manage conflict and engage in productive conflict, let's look closely at gossip. Gossip is a barometer of the overall interpersonal health of a community, and it can quickly spread if not addressed. I suspect that many of us have witnessed the destructive impact of gossip in our workplaces. If you have an issue or complaint about someone, take it directly to that person or get some coaching or feedback about how to resolve the issue, or let it go. My presentation on interpersonal skills in the workplace just ended. I hope my presentation provided you with some new thoughts and perspectives. I'd like to wrap off my presentation with a few thoughts. Interpersonal skills, often known as people skills or personable skills, are skills we use to communicate with others. We use them daily when interacting with others, whether in the workplace or in our personal lives. Interpersonal skills can help you be productive in the workplace, build strong and positive relationships with your colleagues, and complete team projects smoothly and effectively. The benefits of good interpersonal skills can affect the morale and productivity of your entire team or department. I'd like to conclude by saying, nowadays, many of us live in two worlds, the real and the digital one. Make sure that your people skills are consistent across both. Thank you for your participation. Okay, so we have just ended the video playing, and I hope you have gleaned something from that presentation. And now I would like to turn over the microphone to Miss Chow.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anita. I believe it's now time for the questions and answer relating to this topic on interpersonal skills. In the chat box, I see that Ms. Min and Kind have a comment that interpersonal skills can help us in improving the academic development of students, especially for the underachievers. So what are your thoughts on this comment, Dr. Anita?
Well, wonderful thoughts, Miss Min Kind. I really agree with what you're saying, that interpersonal skills can help improve the academic performance of our students. Why? Because the students will be more motivated and inspired working with the teacher who is, friendly, or a teacher who understands their journey, their difficulties along the line, their maybe problems, their academic problems, especially, and perhaps also their emotional or psychological problems where, teachers are there reaching out them, and be kind and be understanding and really good listener to the students' experiences. I really do believe that teacher would help impact the learning process of the students when a teacher has good interpersonal skill. Thank you so much for the thoughts.
Yes, and for other participants, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself to ask directly to Dr. Anita, or you can type them into the chat box. Yes, Dr. Anita, I see one question from Ms. A.I. Kind in the chat box.
Okay, it is here. Now we are, what's that? Now we are using social media a lot. And in my opinion, some put their feeling on the media, this like Facebook, when they feel sometimes bad at workplace, instead of showing their feedback to the respective person. Is it right or wrong? Definitely, this is really a challenge to all of us now. And I would say you are telling what's really happening, at this point in time when media becomes so popular, and that in the workplace, employees would just post in the media. And true, it's the Facebook that is quite, popular to air out their struggles and their problems and their concerns towards the person or towards the school or however will that be. Now the question is it right or wrong? Personally, I would say it is not right. Personally, I would say it is wrong. Because you see, media are for public. No, it's not intended to correct the person. If that would happen, I'll go directly to the person and tell the person. And that person would be really very appreciative to you, I guess, than putting that on the media. The question then is that there are people we cannot reach out, because on our part, for example, we are quite hesitant to tell the person, and we don't have the guts to tell the person directly what the person is saying. That's I said in my presentation, no, that you can people who are publishing, for example, these bad experiences and bad words against people in the media. I would suggest that they should hold their temper and find ways, to solve the problem, instead putting down that person or that school or that organization down. For educated people, upon reading that kind of comments, they're not happy. They're not happy of the person doing it. It's not good. It's a bad thing. So I would always remind, before, when I was teaching in the university, I always reminded my students to not to put or not to post in media whatever grudges and problems they have experienced. And we teachers, on the other hand, can educate our students. We can start from our students. And also we can even remind our colleagues, not to do it, I would say. And let us be examples of not doing, not putting in media our feelings, our emotions, because media are for public people. It's not for personal thing. Our emotions are personal. Our experiences are personal. It's not public. And they don't need to be publicized and be posted. Definitely, I would say it is wrong to do that. However, we see there are people out there who are not educated on what to write and what not to write. And we're sorry for them. But from our end, I suppose, we are not going to do it. And we should be good examples and good models to our students and to our colleagues. And be a model to your school. Whatever we are doing that will reflect the image of our school, we are working for. I hope I have shared with you my thoughts. And if you have a follow-up question, or maybe you have some experiences you would like to share, I would really appreciate hearing from you. Do we still have more?
Yes, we have more inputs and experience now being shared in the chat box.
Okay, so we have from, Alkine. Most people have sympathy, but they lack empathy. I definitely agree. Yeah, because we understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. When we sympathize, we just feel for others. We are worried for them. But when we empathize, we put ourselves on the shoes of others. And it is more, I would say, a deeper understanding of the other person. And empathy, a kind of building an inner relationship with the other person. Because we feel we kind of, in the empathy, we kind of going with the journey of the other person. We relate, we can relate. And that is empathy. When we speak of sympathy, we feel sorry. And true enough, people can sympathize, but they lack the empathy. And teacher should be empathetic to students, especially. Empathetic and patient with our students, because you see, we don't know the background experiences of our students. And as already said a while ago, that when we have these interpersonal skills, empathy, for example, with our students, we are bringing them up. We are widening their perspectives. We are giving them a bigger horizon. And we are respecting them and lifting them with us in their learning process. Empathy is very important. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for your acknowledgement, Kin Fan Min, right? Oh, is that? Yeah, thank you. It's a very good presentation for us. I hope that you can glean something, and that, that would remind us, interpersonal skills are common to us, are familiar to us, but, sometimes we need some kind of reminders, reminding ourselves about our own interpersonal skills. And perhaps this presentation would keep us more kind of aware of our own interpersonal skills. And thank you for that acknowledgement. So we also have from Min El Kain: teachers and school administrators should be empathetic listeners and counselors for their students. I definitely agree with you. So not only the teacher, but also the school administrators, both teachers and school administrators should reach out their students and be mindful of the journey of their students and help them improve and enhance, inspire and motivate them. Because that's the purpose of education, actually, right? Education is there to change our students from not knowing to knowing, from bad to good, from being student to become employee. That's what education is. And the process is really quite challenging if we don't have the interpersonal skills, if we don't have empathy, if we don't feel, if we don't live with the journey of our students. So not only us teachers, but school administrators and school leaders, and even the school staff, where students are going to encounter, going to face at every day. They should be mindful with the students, not just to shout at the students, to ignore the requests of the students. So I hope the school leaders would also kind of model that and remind the teachers, the values, of the school to be shared with the teachers and the students. So we still have here from Nyan T. Ong: interpersonal skill improves by self feedback for our workplace daily life. Yes. I'm trying to interpret of what you are saying here. I hope I am correct. maybe what you are saying is that interpersonal skills require us to be open to feedback um, for our workplace. Like, feedback is really very, very important because we are not perfect, you know. We are working to become perfect, which is quite ideal. We are all imperfect, trying to be perfect from our own imperfections. So, in the course of that journey of improving and making us a bit perfect, we need feedback. Sad to say that there are people out there who are not open to feedback. And if we value the meaning and the importance of feedback, we really would appreciate it. You know, when people give us feedback, in fact, as I mentioned in my presentation, we solicit feedback. We ask for feedback for improvement. So I really appreciate the sharing of Mien, Fiong, saying that feedback is really meaningful, particularly for her. And I hope that we really give value to feedback. We receive feedback. We as well give feedback. That is the life in the workplace. That's give and take. We don't always receive. We always give. I mean, we also give. And our purpose is not to put down the person when we are giving feedback. Our purpose is for improvement. Our purpose is to grow and to develop, to improve for the good of the person and for the good of the school. So I really acknowledge that idea, and I hope that we all agree that feedback is really very important in the workplace. Thank you for that one, Miss Ong. Okay, welcome, Miss Ai, for saying thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we also have here follow-up uh, from Kennethan Quinn. How about compassion? Compassion is unconditional love for me. Yeah, compassion is, you're right, it's an unconditional love. It is the feeling of giving yourself to the other. It's a feeling of, it's more than like kind of empathy, but it's more than that because you are giving up. You are, I would say, really reaching others and being passionate. You put yourself in it. It's compassion. You put yourself in it. You join with the other person. You get inside the other person, being compassion. And it is love. Mhm. And I agree with what you are saying about compassion. Thank you for that feedback. For that comment. And here we have from Dr. Tenwin Mon. In my opinion, good listener is a quality of good leader. Yes, I agree. Leaders should be good listeners. But we see, when we speak of listener or listening here, a good listener is a person who is able to understand exactly what the other person is saying. That's being good listener. This a kind of a 50% communication. A kind of, I understand exactly what you're saying, and you understand exactly what I am saying. So both understand. That's good listener. What do I mean by that? A good listener is a person who listen not only the words that the other person are saying. Good listener is understanding both the verbal and the non-verbal communication. That's good listener. You know, there are times when people come to us and that they cannot open their mouth. They just come to cry. For what reason? Now, if you're a good listener, how do you interpret that? There are no words. Would you send out that person from the office because the person can't talk? Mhm. So that is what we mean here by good listener. A good listener is a person who understands both the said and the unsaid. And I hope you're right. Not only the teachers, but leaders, especially school leaders and administrators, should be good listeners. That will make the organization strong and resilient. That school leader and administrator has very good interpersonal skills, very effective school leaders and administrators. As I mentioned in my presentation, interpersonal skills are people skills. People skills. Are we good at people? Do we have the skills to be good with people? We need interpersonal skills. And we need to examine our own ways, our own expressions, both what we said and what we are not said, our body language in communication. As I mentioned in my presentation, one miscommunication that happens in the workplace is that what we are saying are not what we are acting. Our body language does not speak of what we say. For example, we say, I'm sorry. Say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You say, I'm sorry, but it does not show in your body language whether you are sorry or not. That you're contradicting. You say it in a very arrogant way. See, how you say the word matters, because that would also reflect your body language. So there is miscommunication. What we are saying is not what we are displaying, what we are demonstrating in our action, in our body language. So there are many things that we have to really look into our own interpersonal skills and see where we are at this point in time, and what do we need to improve. What skills do I need to improve? Is it my communication skill, my listening skill, my empathy skill, my feedback skill, my problem solving, my decision making, which we are going to deal on the second topic, of this presentation. So it really requires us to also assess and evaluate ourselves where we are, to become good communicators and to become good with people. because we cannot do away with people. We are not isolated individuals. We connect. We are living as one community. We can never separate, and we can never do that. We always need people, just as people need us. We are all important in the process. We exist because we have tasks to do, and we are going together. We are in our own journey, and in the journey, we have people with us. Start from our family, extended to our relatives, to our friends, to the workplace. So wherever we are with people. We need interpersonal skills. And we are going to start it in our school with our students. We should develop interpersonal skills with our students by giving them samples and models, and also speak that out. We can teach interpersonal skills with our students by modeling and by saying it aloud and integrating or incorporating that in our class. Okay, that's my idea and opinion. I hope you have some also experiences to tell and some thoughts. We have here. We also have from Saba, Moy, Mo. Compassion is very worth fact. Moreover, communication skill. Okay, yes, compassion. And compassion go with also communication skills, right? Because we are going to articulate what we are feeling and what we are going to, I would say, to do to assess the other person. By communication skill, I would say both the verbal and non-verbal communication. Thank you, Mo. And we have from Lalai, is resolving conflicts, interpersonal skill. Yes, it is. Certainly. It's a interpersonal skill. I would say anything that we do that would connect, that would, I would say, affect our relationship is interpersonal skill. When we speak of interpersonal skill, we are relating to other. That's interpersonal. My relationship with the other person. It's an interpersonal. When we say intrapersonal, because we have two terms here, interpersonal and intrapersonal. When we speak of intrapersonal, it's our relationship with ourselves. It's within us. How do we handle ourselves? Intrapersonal. Are we taking care of ourselves? Like our mind, thinks a lot. Sometimes we are overthinking and we destroy ourselves. See? So intrapersonal is our relationship within ourselves. Interpersonal is our relationship with other person. So that when we say resolving conflict is a skill, it's an interpersonal skill because it has to do with the other person, my relationship with the other person. Okay, so we thank you for that question, Talay. And now we move to so I don't know if I'm pronounced well, but this is from Dao Mao So. And saying here, it says, of course, totally agree with you. Body language and tone of the voice, choice of words are very important in communication skills. This can lead misunderstanding in communication. Yeah, I agree. And thank you for that understanding. That's quite important because it will either enhance our communication or destroy communication. So we should look at this one as very important elements when we are doing communication or when we are engaged in the communication process. Thank you for that comment. And I agree, as I said. We still have from Lalay a follow-up. Okay, yes, that's right. Resolving conflict is interpersonal skill. As I said, yes, I agree, Lalay. I mean, my answer, Lalay, is that resolving conflict is interpersonal skill. Okay, as I said already earlier, it is about my relationship with the other person. Because conflict happens between people or among people. Mm-hmm. And that then is what we call interpersonal skills. Am I good with resolving conflicts? Then I am good with my interpersonal skill. That one element of interpersonal skill. So there are different kinds or different elements, or different, I would say, areas about interpersonal skills. It could be problem solving or conflict management or negotiation or assertion, many things. These are also what we call the soft skills or life skills, right? So we also have here from Ken Van Wyn. You just use very good body language, so it is also important for good communication. Yes, body language is very important in good communication, so that when we talk to our students or to the parents, for example, and the parent is, quite angry and upset and, like irate. No, we should keep our poise controlled, we show our body language that there is this acceptance, there is this compassion, there is this empathy with the parent, instead of maybe being hard to that parent and a kind of stern looking to the parent, because that's the body language, stern looking. No, that will not help the situation. And we are not acting as professional, and we are not acting as, what we're supposed to do as teachers and models, not only to our students, but to all people and to parents especially. So body language is very important, as I said. We have here from Dao Mu. Everybody have different mind and idea. So interpersonal skill is important. Yes. Each one has different thoughts, ideas, different needs. Why is that so? It is because everyone or everybody comes from different backgrounds. You have different, not only cultural backgrounds, but even in our family. We have a family culture. We may be living in one country, like in the Philippines, for example. But okay, we have Philippine culture in general as a country, but we also have family culture. It's a bit different from other family culture. See, my family culture will be different of the family culture of my neighbor right there next to my house. And so this would already adds on to the mind and the thinking, the perspective of the individual. So that's a family thing. But we look at it in the education, for example, we have another culture in the education. Like one school has a different culture, different background. I also culture here because what we have, what that makes us up, is taken from our backgrounds. I am now who I am because of my background. So each of us has different background depending on our cultures, our beliefs, and other things. And as I said earlier, education is another thing also that would influence our thoughts and our beliefs and our perceptions. So the culture of this school is different from the culture of another school and another school and another school. So we come to the office, graduates from different universities and colleges, which have different cultures. You see. And we have also set circle of friends. My friends, I have circle of friends, and the other teacher has circle of friends, and they have their own mindset, culture again. All these are interplaying in the person's mind and emotions, and that would make up the mindset of that person. And you could imagine many of us in one workplace putting together ourselves, coming from different backgrounds. So we have each one different interpersonal skill, different interpersonal skills, really. And we need to understand. That's why we have to give space for others by listening. And I use the word expansive listening. Expand. Why? Because this is only my own world. This is my world. But the world of the other people out there are different from my world. Can I expand my world to them? Just listening in the workplace. Listening is very important. So I think we still have one topic, right, Miss Chow? And I guess I have spent so much time here. And I think I have talked so much also. Okay, so I have given myself that comment. So that's all for this time for this topic. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your sharing. And at this point then, Ms. Chow, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Chow for our next topic.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Anita, and thank you for all the wonderful inputs and comments from our participants. And now we'll have some time for a short break. So we will back with the second topic on problem solving and decision-making skills at work at 10:20 a.m. So thank you very much.
Yeah, a moment. There is one here that I just maybe because I have read the comment here. Can we just have a few minutes?
Yes.
And this is from Dao Mu. I meet in my office doctor status person and poem status person. So I talk to understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's good because you talk to that person, in person what you are saying. That's a very good interpersonal skills. I hope I understand what you are writing. And then maybe you can just let me know that later in our second topic before we will start discussing the second topic. Okay? Thank you so much. And now, as already mentioned, no, we are going to have our break. Okay. long. Welcome back. Let us explore topic 16, problem solving and decision making skills at work. The last topic in module 4, soft skills module. We are going to cover the following key points. How do problem solving and decision making interrelate in process? What are some common workplace problems and strategies for resolving them? And what are some types of decisions and how do you make a good one? How do problem solving and decision making interrelate in process? Let's first review the concept of problem solving, and decision making. Problem and problem solving. Problem is a perceived gap between the existing state and a desired state. Problem is an unsatisfactory state that needs to be changed to a desired state as soon as possible. Problem is the difference between what you expected and what actually happened. Whereas problem solving is bridging the gap between the current state to the desired state. Problem solving is a mental process that involves discovering, analyzing, and solving gaps. Problem solving is focused on the past, usually analytical, operational, and done at lower levels. Decision and decision making. A decision is taken at the moment the choice is made. A decision is taken from the available options, whereas decision making is the act of making a choice between two or more options relevant to the decision made. Decision making is a process and happens over a period of time. It happens when the decision is constructed and built or made. Decision making is focused on the future, often creative, directional, done at senior levels. Problem solving and decision making are interlinked in process. They are interrelated and intertwined. Both problem solving and decision making go hand in hand, but success in one doesn't automatically lead to the other. You can make decisions, yet you never solve the problem. School leaders, managers, and teachers need to understand the difference between the problem solving and the decision making and aim to make lifelong improvements in both skill sets. The key difference between problem solving and decision making is that problem solving is a process, whereas making decisions is an action based on insights derived during the problem solving process. Many people use the terms problem solving and decision making interchangeably, specifically because they have elements in common, but they are not the same. You can be adept at problem solving or finding the root of an issue and still lack the decision-making skills to choose an action viable to bring about a successful outcome. Quick decisions don't always lead to best-case solutions. A purist approach to problem solving doesn't take into account that sometimes an organization needs to make the best decision under the existing circumstances, where budget, time, and resource constraints might play a factor. How to use decision making in solving problems? It all boils down to one thing. When faced with a challenge, break the problems down into manageable components that require decisions to be made. Problem solving and decision making skills are both important because they can help to navigate a variety of situations that might come up at work. They complement one another and can be used to resolve many of the same issues. The ability to resolve the problems and make decisions is the heart and soul of every job at every level of an organization. All employees encounter these processes. Having said, allow me to move on to the second key point of my presentation. What are some common workplace problems and strategies for resolving them? Some common problems encountered at the workplace include work issues, such as the need to collaborate and work with various types of people, meet targets and deadlines, work within tight budgets, gain endorsement and acknowledgement of supervisors or managers, work within the norms and culture of the organizations, among others. Relationships and performance issues, such as communication problems, attitude problems, fixed mindsets, interpersonal challenges between manager and subordinates, or among subordinates, ethical problems, poor performance, discrimination, and or harassment, among others. And a specific set of problems as a result of policies that are unique in your workplace, process that should be followed for various work-related issues, clients that the organization provides services to, inadequate resources, equipment, among others. Question: how are you going to approach these problems? There are countless approaches that have been developed for problem solving. Some are very simple and others complicated. I would like to share with you the ideal problem solving method. Brentford and Stein presented the ideal problem solving method in 1984. The problem solvers follow the 5 steps. Step 1, I, identify the source of the problem. Step 2, D, define its context. Step 3, E, explore solutions. Step 4, A, action, execute the chosen strategy. And step 5, L, look back and evaluate. Let's look at it closely. Ideal first step, identify the problem. What exactly is the nature of the problem? And is there just one problem or a number of smaller issues? What is the source of the problem? Have you encountered something similar before that may help you in your approach to this situation? Taking the time to identify the problem clearly will not only help you understand it yourself, but also enable you to communicate it effectively to others where necessary. Ideal second step, define its context. Analyzing the problem involves thinking about all the various factors that have led to this point, as well as identifying the ideal outcome. What went wrong, when, and how. Gather together all the relevant information in order to build up a full picture. Then think about what the solution would look like. What do you ideally want to happen? Ideal third step, explore solutions. This step allows you to explore potential solutions. There may be one obvious answer, but many problems benefit from an open-minded, flexible approach and a bit of creative thinking. It may not be just up to you to solve the problems, so involve others and get their ideas and opinions too. Assess the merits and feasibility of each possible solution before deciding on a course of action. Ideal fourth step, action. Once you've decided on the best solution, it's time to put it to the test. But before you dive in, take some time to think it through and ensure you have considered all the practicalities and possible scenarios. Then draw up an action plan of what needs to happen, when, and who is responsible. It may be that you need buy-in from others. If so, champion your idea with confidence to make things happen. Ideal fifth step, look back and evaluate. Looking back is about learning from the experience. Did your solution work? If not, you may need to go back and repeat the process to find an alternative. What have you learned? How will you do things differently next time? Make sure you ask for feedback from any others involved. As with all skills, practice makes perfect. So don't be afraid to put yourself in new situations and look for opportunities to solve problems. Ideal is simple and easy to remember, and it can help you to tackle even the most stubborn problems. Those are the 5 steps of the ideal problem solving method. Perhaps the next thing to ask is, what are the attributes of effective problem solvers? Some attributes of effective problem solvers are: they don't need to be right all the time. They focus on finding the right solutions rather than wanting to prove they are all right at all costs. They go beyond their own conditioning. They go beyond a fixated mindset and open up to new ways of thinking and explore options. They look for opportunity within the problem. They see problems as challenges and try to learn from them. They have clear definition of what the problem is. They can specifically identify the problem. They explore their options. They see more than one solution to a problem and find new and productive ways to deal with new problems as they arise. They also have a backup plan if the first solution does not work, and can ask for support and advice when needed. And they have reasonable expectations. Good problem solvers have reasonable expectations as to what the solution would be. They understand that there are many elements affecting a situation and that idealistic ways of thinking and going about solving a problem will be counterproductive. With this in mind, let me go on to decision and decision-making process, which is the last key point of my presentation. What are some types of decisions and how do you make a good one? There are various types of decisions to take in the day-to-day functioning at schools. Let us take a look at some of the types of decisions. Decisions may be classified into 5 major types. These are: 1. Organizational and personal decisions. 2. Routine and strategic decisions. 3. Policy and operating decisions. 4. Programmed and non-programmed decisions. And 5. Individual and group decisions. Organizational and personal decisions. Organizational decisions are those decisions that are taken to achieve organizational goals. Your school students do not perform well in science and math. As a head teacher, you discuss this issue with teachers and decide to use different teaching methods to improve the performance of the students. These are for organizational goals because good performance enhances the credibility of the school. Personal decisions are those decisions that cannot be delegated to others. These decisions are meant only to achieve personal goals. For example, you want to solve food habits related problems of your students. Advising them to take nutritious food is a personal decision. Routine and strategic decisions. Routine decisions are those which are repetitive in nature. For example, certain established rules, procedures, and policies are to be followed. When a teacher goes on leave, you engage another teacher who is free at the time to take the classes. This is a routine decision. Strategic decisions are those decisions which have to be deliberated upon in depth. For example, highlighting the characteristics of the school before giving an advertisement for admissions can bring more revenue to the school. Policy and operating decisions. Policy decisions are those decisions which are taken at the higher level. For example, fixing pay scales for teachers or developing a new curriculum framework. Operating decisions are those decisions which lay down procedure of execution of the policy made. For example, how to disburse the RERs accumulated to a teacher, or implementing the national curriculum in the framework of your school. Non-programmed and programmed decisions. Non-programmed decisions are those decisions which are unstructured. For example, if a child is often absent as head teacher, you may analyze the reasons for his or her absenteeism from the information provided by the child and then help the child to improve the situation. Whereas programmed decisions are of routine type and repetitive in nature. For example, when should children take their breakfast, lunch, or when term and exams have to be conducted. And individual and group decisions. Individual decision is a decision taken by an individual in the organization where autocratic style of functioning prevails. For example, if only the head teacher takes a decision without the participation of teachers, it is an individual decision. Group decisions are collective decisions which are taken by a committee with a proper representation. For example, decisions taken collectively by parents, teachers, and head teacher for the welfare of students. How do you go about making those decisions? Consider the following. Who would you involve? Would you delegate the decision making? Would you pass it on to your boss? Would you consult a colleague or an outside expert? Would you ask your team members for their inputs? What process would you use? And would you insist on what you believe is the best decision or discard yours in favor of what the team decides? How to make a good decision? To make a good decision, apply the process. Step 1. Identify the decision. Clearly identify and define your decision. If you misidentify the problem to solve, or if the problem you have chosen is too broad, you'll knock the decision train off the track before it even leaves the situation. If you need to achieve a specific goal from your decision, make it measurable and timely. Step 2. Gather relevant information. Once you have identified your decision, it's time to gather the information relevant to that choice, what information is needed, the best sources of information, and how to get it. This step involves both internal and external work. Some information is internal. You'll seek it through a process of self-assessment. Other information is external. You'll find it online, in books, from other people, and from other sources. Step 3. Identify the alternatives. When relevant information now at your fingertips, you will probably identify several possible paths of action or alternatives when trying to meet your goal. For example, if your decision is trying to enhance quality education of your school, your alternatives could include strengthening your school partnerships with parents, community, and other schools, building capacity of teachers and staff, or a combination of the two. You can also use your imagination and additional information to construct new alternatives. In this step, you will list all possible and desirable alternatives. Step 4. Weigh the evidence. Draw on your information and emotions to imagine what it would be like if you carried out each of the alternatives to the end. Evaluate whether the need identified in step 1 would be met or resolved through the use of each alternative. As you go through this difficult internal process, you'll begin to favor certain alternatives, those that seem to have a higher potential for reaching your goal. Finally, place the alternatives in a priority order based upon your own value system. Step 5. Choose among alternatives. Once you have weighed all the evidence, you are ready to select the alternative that seems to be the best one for you. You may even choose a combination of alternatives. Your choice in step 5 may very likely be the same or similar to the alternative you place at the top of your list at the end of step 4. Step 6, take action. You're now ready to take some positive action by beginning to implement the alternative you chose in step 5. And step 7, review your decision and its consequences. In this final step, consider the results of your decision and evaluate whether or not it has resolved the need you identified in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps of the process to make a new decision. For example, you might want to gather more detailed or somewhat different information or explore additional alternatives. Using a step-by-step decision-making process can help you make more deliberate, thoughtful decisions by organizing relevant information and defining alternatives. This approach increases the chances that you will choose the most satisfying alternative possible, which will likely make your decision successful. It is also good to know the attributes of effective decision makers. Some attributes of effective decision makers are: decision makers trust themselves. They value their own experience in the field and believe they are qualified to draw upon that experience to weigh risks and alternatives and decide on a direction in matters large and small. They build relationships with experts throughout the organization. While it's important not to second guess your own expertise, it's also important to know what you don't know. People known as decision makers have great relationships with those in the know about a variety of different topics, so they can call upon them to assess the situation when a decision relating to their particular area is needed. Decision makers don't agonize. They are comfortable with their choices, and once they have done their research and decided on a direction, they don't look back or lose sleep and keep asking, what if I had gone down the other path? The back and forth of maybe this is the right way to go, but on the other hand, that might be preferable, can be paralyzing. And people who ascend to the top of organizations have long ago learned to silence those unproductive inner voices. Once they have decided on a path they are comfortable, they move forward. They act quickly but thoroughly. There is often a time element involved in decision making. Opportunities are won and lost in a matter of hours or days. Decision makers are able to look at a situation, assess what research is needed, draw on their resources and relationships to get it done, so they can make a quick but sound decision that they won't regret later. They aren't afraid of mistakes. Even the most confident decision maker or top leader will make a mistake once in a while, but he doesn't let it break his stride. He knows that all people learn from mistakes and do better the next time. I have just finished my presentation. To reiterate, my presentation covered the concepts and the interrelatedness of problem solving and decision making, the types of problems that people face at work, the problem solving method, the attributes of good problem solvers, and the types of decisions, the steps that go into making a good decision, and the attributes of good decision makers as well. If you can take away one or two essential insights that you can apply to your own context and scenario as you advance your problem solving and decision making skills, I would really appreciate it. Thank you for your participation. Okay, so we have just watched the video, and hopefully this time you have gathered some thoughts and perhaps you would like to share your experiences or maybe ask questions and whatever would that be, then we're going to have it now. So I would like to turn over the mic to Miss Chow. Okay, do we have some questions now?
Mm. Yes, we will now discuss some inputs that our participants have put into the chat box.
Okay,
Yes,
so
so
we, yeah, go ahead.
okay,
Strauss.
point, she said that problem-solving skills help us to act suitably to the time and circumstances of different situations. It adds to get the best and suitable result to our problems. So what are your thoughts on these comments?
Thank you for that comment, Min Alkine. That's a wonderful comment. And I definitely agree with you that problem solving skills help us to act suitably. You know, we can act, I would say, I think what you mean by suitably is appropriately in the context where the problem is taking place. Now, we do have encounter problems, different kinds, maybe small problems, average problems, or bigger problems. We do have that. Even it start problem kind of making choices or finding solutions are really demanding in our life as people, and as workers. So problem solving skills help us in many ways and in different ways in different situations. The point is, how skillful are we to solve our problems, right? You mentioned here that it aids to get the best and suitable result to a problem. True? But yeah, along that line, I'd like to add then that problem solving really requires a process. We cannot find solutions right away. We need to think and perhaps research. Now, when I talk about research, it may be a qualitative research. By qualitative research, we can ask people we trust. We can ask some facts, regarding the problem. You can ask help. That's why it was mentioned here that we can ask people and other sources, or depending on the kind of problem, we can also use like online or books in process to be able to identify the best alternative to address the problem. So that is what we mean here by problem solving. And maybe at this point also, I'd like to I'd like to give the difference between problem solving and decision making. We have not gone yet to the decision making process, but just have that in our mind. When we see problem solving, we are doing the process. It's a process. Identifying the problem, and we do the process on finding solutions and alternatives, and then choosing the best option. Whereas when we say decision making. A decision making or making decision is an action. Once I single out, I point out the alternative, the best solution, then I will make a decision. And decision is made for action. If my decision, for example, is to enhance my quality teaching. That's my decision. Enhancing my quality teaching. Then, if that is my decision, I will put that into action. So decision or making decision is an action. Solving problem is a process. But the two, say, problem solving and decision making are, as I mentioned, interlinked. Okay, they are interlinked. We cannot pull one from the other. They come together. They go hand in hand. The point here is that there are people who may be good at problem solving, good at processing information, but perhaps they lack the decision-making skills. That could happen. They lack the skill to be able to identify the viable solution, making a decision. That is why after this problem solving, we have the decision making. See where is my limitation? Where is my strength? And where is my limitation? Maybe I'm good at problem solving, but I'm not good at decision making. Or maybe I'm bad at problem solving, but I'm good at decision making. Is it possible? It can. It's possible. But it is always, I would say, desirable, and it makes much sense. And it helps a lot if we are both good at problem solving and decision making. Okay, I don't know, but I hope I have shared my thoughts about the comment of Kind. Thank you so much for that, for your statement. And Momo said here, decision making is very important. Definitely, yes. It's really very important because our decisions make us or unmake us. Our decision shapes our life. From the small decision to the bigger and biggest decisions, they all affect us in our life, in the life we live. Depends on the choice we make every day. Just as in the morning, when we wake up, we already make a choice, whether we stay long on bed or we stand up. That's already a choice. We can choose to come to class early or late. Everything. As I said, from the very small, trivial, to the most important decisions, they all affect us. But it all starts from the little decisions. Sometimes we ignore our daily decisions and we're only up to the bigger decisions. But think of that. The big decisions come from the small decisions that we make every day. Because there are lots of options that we are confronted with. Lots of options, lots of alternatives. And we have to make a decision. It's quite important. And I really agree with you that decision making is very important. The process to build a decision, that is decision making. Very important. It's crucial to our life. Not only at work, but the whole life in general, in the whole. Okay, thank you for that comment or statement. Now we have Kind sa follow-up, or maybe another one. It says here, personal decision is a basic step to be able to make other kinds of decisions for an organization? Definitely yes. Personal decisions are the basic. They are the foundation, of making other decisions or other kinds of decisions for an organization. With this, we would see that personal decision really is very crucial, very important. It matters a lot. And we hope that our personal decisions are backed up with evidence somehow. What I mean is that we have reasons to make this decision. You see, there are decisions that are easy to make. There are decisions that are just in the middle, easy, difficult. But there are decisions that are really very challenging, very difficult to make. And we know that. We have been into that. We can identify the kind of decisions that we need to think deeper. Critical decision. Yeah. But it all boils down to looking at the problem at hand and see the problem in different angles, in different corners. Before making a choice or a course of action. Okay, so thank you for that statement or comment, kind. I really appreciate that. And we have here from Dao Hin Mu. I think problem solving and decision making and problem solving and decision is just balanced and fair. I hope I understand your statement, but what I was thinking about this one is that problem solving and decision balance and fair can be mutual of importance. I think I have not maybe understood you well about this one. Problem solving and decision is just, balanced, and fair. Maybe what you are trying to tell here is that a decision is taken from the problem solving, and it is just, balanced, and fair when you make a decision which has been processed, which has been thought about, and you do it scientifically. It is not just a decision that is done quickly, especially to things that matter a lot. As I said earlier, there are issues or there are concerns that easy to decide and that does not matter so much, like maybe what to wear I don't know, but you see, we know that the importance of the problem, the significance of the problem. But when the problem that really matters a lot, we need to process it before we make a decision. So I guess that's what you are trying to tell, that problem solving and decision is just, balanced, and fair. However, if I get you wrong, you can always make a follow-up. Okay, thank you. And we have here from I Kind. Which one is more important, from top-down decision or bottom-up? Okay, so you're asking for the importance, top-down and bottom-up. I would say it would depend on the situation, I guess. it would depend on the problems, because there are problems that are, or problems or maybe decisions that there are decisions that are, I would say, that are only for managers that are from the top leaders, for example. You see, like for instance, policy making. We have national or regional policies. Decisions come from there up. Or in the school level, for example, when we see top-down decision, maybe there are issues, there are matters, that can only be made by the top leaders. Maybe certain the policies that are handed down from DepEd or from ministries, down to the schools. There are decisions that are not involved. And there are decisions that are also very important that would, important from the down, from the field, people working in the field. Like, for example, teachers should involve in process because this concerns so much. And so we have to have the bottom-up decision. What I was trying to tell is to distinguish, kind of decisions that are happening. This is real happening in the school and in any organization, real happening. There are decisions that only top managers can decide. But there are decisions that should be coming from the bottom, from people there working in the field. So bottom-up decision. The question here is, which one is more important? I would always, if you ask me personally, I would say bottom-up decision. That concern the people, bottom-up decision. Even those decisions from the top managers, from Ministry of Education, for example, the policies, no, they come from people. There is consultation, there is engagement, there's involvement of the people who will be executing, who will be implementing the policies. So the first thing I did was to present the types of decisions. The second thing is asking about the importance, which one is important, bottom up or top down. I would say it's always bottom up. Why? Because these decisions, after being made, are implemented. And who are going to implement? The people. People in the field will implement. And if there is no engagement in the decision-making process, people in the field don't own. There is no ownership of that decision. People in the field will be feeling detached from that policy, from that decision, because perhaps that decision does not speak of what's really happening in the field, because there was no consultation in the first place. There is no ownership of the one executing the decision. But once the decision is made, and processed, it's a collaborative, it's a collective decision. There is that sense of ownership in the implementation process. It's very important. When there is ownership, there is accountability. That matters a lot. So I would always say to school leaders and administrators to engage the teachers in the decision making. You know what? We had a study here, and we conducted a study in Semi-Track about job satisfaction of the basic education teachers in Southeast Asia. Simulated track conducted that. And that was conducted 2021, last year. And it is published online. And you know the finding there? One agony of the teacher that dissatisfies them is they are not engaged in the decision-making process. They want to be part because there are concerns and issues that are not considered in the policies because policy or the decision was made up there, the top people, which they really don't have the overall picture of what's happening in the ground. That is one factor, one key issue that makes teachers in Southeast Asia dissatisfied. Okay. So I have Miss I kind. Thank you for that question. So we have here another one. This is from Mien Zhu Min. Do you think experienced person can solve more problems? Okay, thank you for this question. Interesting question. My answer to this question would be, it depends on that experienced person. It depends on the person. Because there are lots of experienced people who cannot make good decisions. Why do I say that? Look at these people in the outside, for example. I see a person while still young was already drinking much wine, drinking, still young. And getting old, still drinking. And when he dies, still drinking. Experience. But he make good decision for his life and for the people around him. That's not. Because he is a problem. And he suffers a lot. So I would say it all depends on the experienced person. If the experienced person here is a person who thinks, a person who is learning from experience, who is processing the experience, who is shaping his life for good, and doing the process of solving difficulties and challenges along the way, he can solve more problems. We know that. There are people out there, the old people, we go for advice, we seek advice, right? Extraordinary experienced people, and they have lots of wisdom. They can help us. By wisdom, it would mean that they can enlighten our minds based on their experience. They can set us to the right path, make good decision, because they see the problem in different perspectives. You see, they see the problem, the issue in different perspectives, and they can guide us to which perspective are we going to choose. Another thing here is that when we seek for advice, to wisdom, experienced people, they won't decide for us. They would present us different perspectives and we make a choice. That is experienced person who knows his own experience and the experience of others. So again, not all experienced person can make or can solve many problems. As said, it depends. As I had explained. Thank you, Min. And now we have Lailai. Why? As far as I understand, what you have said, problem solving and decision making go hand in hand and don't lead to each other's success. I think no. In my opinion, problem solving leads to decision making skills. A problem cannot be solved without decision making. True. Problem solving is a process and decision making is an action. Is it true? Yes. I agree with you. Problem cannot be solved without decision making. Definitely yes. If after you process your problem and you don't do something, you don't decide anything, the problem remains a problem. Right? So a problem can only be solved when we make up a decision. But another thing here, when we already have a decision, the next thing we do is we make a decision making. Okay? So what does that mean here? For example, you process why are my students in the school, for example, not learning much, particularly in a teacher context, in a classroom. Why are my students not learning? Why do they have these failing grades? For example, a students or a class of 50 students, like 20 students fail. I mean, 20 students are not doing good. That's quite alarming. And so you solve the problem, you process, you identify the problem, and you do research. Why, because as I mentioned, problem solving is about the past. It is about the past. Why is this happening? Why does this thing happen beyond my expectation? When I thought the result would give like 80%, 90% students pass, and why is this only 70% or 60% students pass? This is the problem. So you dig out the past. In the problem solving, we're concerned of the past. What are the factors affecting this? What are the variables, for example, variables affecting this one? Why my students, most of my students fail? Okay, so problem solving. And then you see, you identify the sources. I mean, alternatives. There are alternatives. Most of the students are absenteeism or tardiness. Another maybe is relationship with teacher and student. And maybe another one is your teaching method, for example. Maybe I have to do with my teaching approach, or the teaching method might have affected. Why? Perhaps the way I present the topic is not the language that all the students understand. Maybe I use terms that are quite difficult for them to understand, or maybe I'm too fast or whatever. Maybe I lack the materials, and so on. So after that, you define your alternative. Maybe, okay, I have to improve my teaching. This really has, just for example, enhance my teaching. That's your alternative. And now you decide. So that was the past, the variables, key issues affecting the problem. That was the past. And now you decide, you pick up a decision, because a problem solving cannot be solved without a decision, making a decision. So your decision now is enhance my teaching method. That's now, I will improve. That's your decision. Now in that decision then, you make a decision-making process. But in the decision-making process, you still have in mind the problem. Your decision now is to solve the problem. How? By improving your teaching style, teaching method. That is your decision. And now in the decision-making process, you are now going to do some alternatives again. Gather information. How do I teach How do I improve my teaching? Then that is decision-making process. How do I improve my teaching in a manner that my student would understand? In a manner that I would improve the learning process of my students. So you do research in finding your alternatives, some ways, some strategies that you will do. So I mentioned about 7 steps. You do some steps again. That's again another process. But the purpose of this one is not to process a decision, but to make action. That's why decision making is action, is an action. So you look forward now. Your mindset is forward, advance, future. In the problem solving, your mind is backward. Issues that affect the problem. In the decision making, your mind is forward. What to do? What will I do? That is decision making. Because afterwards, you're going to implement that decision. But once you implement now, you are ready with all the strategies, ways, alternatives that you have chosen in your decision-making process. So you put then that decision into action. So in other words, after you identified your decision in the problem solving, you don't stop there and then implement right away your decision. You need to process your decision in order to apply your decision successfully. Your decision is to enhance your teaching style through teaching method. That's your decision. Decision making, do the processing. How will I do this? What are the best things to do? When you implement your decision to enhance quality teaching, you will be successful because you have the materials ready at hand. Because you process your decision. That is why there are those who are good at solving problems but not good at decision making. Because they don't process their decision. They just implement right away. Does that make sense? So I hope this time you understand the difference between problem solving and decision making. Okay, I hope I have answered the questions of Lai Why. Thank you so much for that question. That allows me to explain further. Now, we have here from Kin Than Win. A very good and useful presentation for me. Thank you so much for that, Win. I have learned for problem solving by 4 steps. Okay, I guess you have 5 steps. You use the ideal method, 5 steps, Quinn. I will always recommend ideal method. There are lots of methods. You use fishbone method. I think you're familiar with the fishbone. Fishbone, you use the fish and categorize, categories, the problems, the issues. That's good for brainstorming at the same time. That's good, but it's quite complicated to discuss it here. It will spend more time, But I would say that ideal method is very effective, and many people are using this one in problem solving. There are 5 steps. Okay. In your presentation has 5 steps. Yeah, true. So identify, define, are similar or not. Okay, yes, true. That's very good question. That's really a follow-up question of what I had just presented. Okay, so then the question is, identify and define are similar or not? I would say they are not similar. They're different. Because when we say identify the problem, you are going to identify mean you're going to single out, single out the problem. This is the problem. Among many problems, perhaps, that's happening in the school or in your classroom, you identify one problem. Okay. And now, after you identify the problem, you define. Now, the step 2 here does not mean define the problem. No, it means define the context where the problem happens. That's why I said in my presentation, define the context. Identify the problem, define the context. By context, I mean here the scenario, the circumstance. Why is this happening? What is the picture where the problem comes in? This is the context. The context is the environment, the environment, the class itself. You see, by defining the context would mean that, see, who are my students? Where they come from? What are their competence levels? How many are they in my class? And you see, what about my seating arrangement? What about the size of my class? How many chairs do I have? What about their seating arrangement? This is now the context. And context on the part of the students. You look at it in different angles. The who, the what, the when, the how, and the why in the context. Let's define the context. And then that is the context of the students. What about my context? I have to define my context as a teacher. What are my materials? Okay, what is my goal, my objective? It's very important in this teaching in this particular class. Did I articulate my teaching goal to my students? What about my steps in bringing in the class? How did I explain the concept? What are my examples? And all these contexts that are happening. Do I have enough materials? That I explain well? My voice is enough that my students can hear at the back seat. If I have 40 students or 50 students, they hear me. Maybe I have the soft voice. I need to maybe practice making my voice loud. This is now the context. Step 2, define the context. Describe the environment. That's part of, finding the problem. Because by describing, by defining your context, your environment, the students, the teacher, the class itself, then you have the bigger picture and understanding the problem. You go back to the problem, then step 1. So I would say that they are different. The step 1 and step 2 are really different. I hope I have answered your question. Can Tan Min? And really, this is a very good question. Thank you so much. Very interesting question. I appreciate that. We have here from Dr. Kaliyar Laing. I hope I have pronounced your name. Thank you for your statement, your comment. Is it problem solving and decision making we need under the condition? So I think to solve this, our decision don't make immediately, but if we need experience and need control mind. Okay. Yeah, I agree with. Before I would say something, I hope I understand your statement well, and I stand corrected if I get wrong. But what I am trying to tell here, my understanding is that making problem solving and decision making happen under certain conditions. I guess when you see condition here, maybe you are referring to the context, where that happens. And then he said that solve the decision. Okay. Yeah. I think I am getting, I am trying to tell now to summarize, to paraphrase. I think my understanding of your question is saying that there are problems that happen. There are problems that need to think more, and that would require more time to process and to make a decision. There are also problems that may be easy to make a decision. And so you can perhaps make a decision like quickly or doesn't take much time. And so you need to, by controlling mind, maybe what you are referring is hold on, not to give a decision right away, because the problem, this kind of problem needs more time to consider. So hold on, hang on yet, while I am processing and we are processing to make a decision of this problem. If that is what you are trying to tell, I would agree with you that there are problems that need more time to decide. And we need people maybe to get involved in the process and engage some people, maybe committee or whatever, to help us really able to make good decision. Or maybe you make a personal decision, but you need just more time to think it over, making decision. Whereas there are problems that you can make the decision without spending much time. Yes. I hope I got that question correctly, but you can as well make a follow-up. Thank you for that one. Thank you for your statement. And now we have Dao and Mu. Every day, everybody meets problems, problem solving and decision. Yes, I agree. Every day, as mentioned already. In fact, before attending to the webinar, you make a decision. You have decided whether to attend or not to attend. And finally, you are with us. And thank you so much for your presence and for your inputs and your insights. Really matters a lot for us. That's already a decision. I know you have appointments and you have other things to do, but then you are with us now. That's really a very big, I would say, plus for us, and we really appreciate that. Yeah, every day, everybody makes decisions, problems, and then decide. Okay, thank you, Miss Mo. I don't know if it is no. Thank you, Mo. And now we have another one. Sofalika Mok. And the question is, can problem solving interrelate to all level of the decision making? I hope I understand your question correctly, but I would say when you are referring to the steps, problem solving steps that we mentioned and that I presented, that it would be able to interrelate to all level of decision making. Is this what I am? Am I correct here? Am I correct? What do you mean by interrelate here? Interrelate means connected to all levels of decision making. Yes. Yeah, my answer is yes. Problem solving can connect, can function to all levels of the decision making. May that decision making be easy or middle or challenging or whatever problems that would be. Is it a personal problem? Is it a workplace problem? Is it problems with friends or whatever is that? problem solving can always be a part in the process of making decision. Because as I had presented in my first video slides, I tried to explain the interrelatedness, the connection, the link of problem solving and decision making. So we cannot just jump off to decision without processing, the problem. Well, we can do that. Why not? No, but we know the consequence. And again, it all depends on what kind of problem is that. Okay, so my answer is the problem solving can interrelate to all level of the decision making. I hope the question of level here referring to difficulty level of decision making. Okay. Thank you, Mo, for that. Next is from Mo. So it's very important. Okay, yeah, just make a comment. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging. Now we have here from Mo Sabay. Relationship and performance issues is very interesting for me. Discrimination is everywhere. So, care. How many about discrimination? Okay. How about discrimination? Okay, say, yeah, relationship and performance. I agree with you. No, very, very interesting. In as source of problem, as I would say, workplace problem. And what about discrimination? When we speak of discrimination, we are referring to, I would say, putting the other person down, or not accepting the other person, or not giving value. How is it? To discriminate is not to separate. You see, we say discriminate to separate the other person, to ignore. I would say we ignore the other person. We discriminate. We look at the person negatively. There are different ways of describing discrimination. If we say, for example, in racial discrimination is an example, we have the discrimination between the white and the black. It's racial discrimination. We also have cultural discrimination. For example, we discriminate the ethnic groups from the stream. This discrimination. Or in the class, maybe we discriminate those who are maybe again, ethnic groups or certain backgrounds, maybe religious beliefs that might also affect as part of discrimination. Right? Religious belief and cultural background. As I said, culture between teacher from other country or from other culture. That's discrimination, and that could happen in the workplace. And there are different aspects, different areas where we discriminate people. We only choose what we like, and we don't allow people we don't like. That's discrimination already in the workplace. I don't like the way the person smiles. I hate. And then you evade. Evading, get away from that person. That's already a form of discrimination that happens in the workplace. And that's one problem. There is this discrimination. And then by to that extent, the worst thing there is that these teachers form a circle, a group, you know, they have their own group, and they don't like the other teachers to join them. Is that there's a conflict, but at the same time, there is this kind of maybe a form of discrimination. If we look at it in a global perspective, I mean, in a wider perspective. So we see discrimination from smaller issues to bigger issues, and we don't listen to that people. We discriminate their ideas. We don't accept, we don't acknowledge for one reason or the other. That's our personal decision. Again, as I said earlier, the worst is that if that personal decision will come into group decision, that becomes stronger, and that's the problem that you have to solve in the workplace. Okay, I hope I have given you my piece of thought. Oh, thank you for that question. Okay, for the question of when, I think Ms. Chow can answer that later. And okay, Ms. Chow has answered. I'm sorry. Okay, we have here from Mian Ai Kain. I think all decision makers cannot solve the problem completely to get the best results, but effective decision makers can do this. Do you agree with me? Yes, definitely. If the decision makers cannot solve the problems, no, completely. But I think what you mean here by effective decision makers, I guess what you are trying to point out here is that these decision makers now involve the process and perhaps involve the people to make decision. I mean, by people, those important people, those persons that would, I would say, contribute much in the decision-making process. Of course, we don't just involve people just because we would like them to become part of the decision-making, but we involve people who can contribute, who have the facts, you know, to solve the problem and make a good decision. Good decision. That's effective decision making. Okay. As I said, I agree with you with that. Thank you for that, Kai. So, thank you for your good comments, no, and I hope that our session really, this session helps a lot and makes sense to you and in your workplace, you know, personally and professionally. So we still have one from Kain. In remote learning environment, educators should be effective decision makers in considering the pedagogies for efficient learners' academic performance. You're right. Yes, in remote learning environment. Teachers, educators must be effective decision makers. Here you can use, one teacher can use the personal decision. And hopefully that your decision really is based on, you know, what's really happening there, you know, like know the problem and make decision. That's why identify in your remote learning environment, define the context. What is that context and what is the problem? And especially in the pedagogies, the teaching approaches. I know remote learning environment is quite challenging. It's really quite, you know, very, you know, I cannot just describe, but I know there are people out there are teachers out there who really found that very, very challenging. But there's no choice. So decision making is really very, very crucial to affect learning. to maximize the learning process of the students through online. I wonder if you still are doing online learning now. Are you still using remote learning? Online learning? May I know? What about in Cambodia? Do we have participants from Cambodia? Yes. Miss Chow. In Cambodia, are you are you still doing your remote learning, or you do the blended, the mixed?
I believe that it is the Division of Education that is in charge of this instead of our International Development Department.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, but currently, as far as I know, most of our training for the regions are doing online.
Mm-hmm. What about the classes? Like, school, like
Yeah, for our English teaching languages classes, we're now partly conducting some offline classes besides some online classes for smaller students, let's say kindergarten students. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So kindergarten students are now doing the face-to-face classes.
Yes.
Okay. And even also secondary education, right? High school students are now using the face-to-face classes.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah, true.
Despite areas that are still now in some situation that cause a lot of COVID cases. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about in Cambodia? Are you still doing completely remote learning, or a combination? Like you have blended face-to-face and remote learning in Cambodia?
I can see that in the chat box, our participants from Cambodia say that they're using the hybrid mode and also some online classes. Yes.
Okay, hybrid now. So online and offline classes. Okay, thank you. And yeah, we have the answer here of Vanara and Tran Pak D. Are you PP still using online classes? Online classes. Some are still using like pure online classes. Others are already using hybrid classes. Thank you for that, for the update. What about in Myanmar? Myanmar is now pure face-to-face classes, or combination of online and offline classes? Okay, so schools in Myanmar now are reopened. That's good. So it will be, there is no problem now of the remote learning. Yeah, because you have to be there in your classroom. Yeah, I think I would like to speak, Yes. Okay, some universities in Myanmar are using hybrid. Okay, thank you for the update. What about in the Philippines? Yeah, trying to live together with COVID. True. The Philippines has. Is it online or offline? Maybe hybrid. Okay. Now, by the way, Philippines now is having their holiday. So teachers have no classes. They are having their holiday this time today. It has here with Beverly Gonzalez. Thank you for the information. So they are using blended learning. So Philippines is now using blended learning, so online and offline classes. So again, we hope that COVID-19, the pandemic, will go away very soon, so we can continue our classes offline. We will meet our students, and students will enjoy, meeting with classmates and teacher, and it will be really a fun learning then, because I know that students are getting bored. Some students are getting bored online, and of course, purely online classes would not really develop the holistic development of the students, because we need students to socialize, to build their relationships among themselves. So we have face-to-face learning in UCSM. What is this one? Is this a university, right? So one of the universities. That's good. Okay, so thank you so much. Now, why is this question coming up? I think this was initiated by the statement, like the what is that remote learning environment, that educators must be good at decision making, because remote learning really is challenging if we don't address the needs of our students. And we can only do that by making good decisions, and choosing very good teaching strategies or pedagogies that would make the teaching learning process fun and enjoyable to our students, to maximize their learning. Okay, so I guess that's all. Ms. Chow, do we still have other questions or insights and statements?
I believe that's all questions and inputs for today's topics.
Okay, thank you. So UCSM is University of Computer Studies, Mandalay. Thank you for giving me really the name of that university. Thank you so much. So it's now like using face-to-face learning. I know, back to face-to-face learning, it's again a challenge, because you have to adjust many things, and there are also many things to prepare, right, in the face-to-face classes, like maintaining the many things, like to avoid the pandemic to happen, to occur in the school, just to minimize the spread. Okay, thank you so much, and that's all for today. Would like to close my presentation by saying that problem solving and decision making really are very crucial. These are the skills that we need to develop, we need to enhance, and we need to, I would say, make it ongoing process, because we always learn in process. We won't say that we are at good now. Maybe being good now can become better tomorrow and best the next day, So this learning is a process as well. So I would again I would again reiterate what I said in the video presentation, that we are most of us are living in two worlds. One in the digital world. Digital world now is when we use emails in our communication. We use WhatsApp, we use Viber and many other apps to communicate. It's a digital world, or we use conferences like what we are doing now. And the real world now is the face-to-face contact. So hopefully that we are good at both types of world in our interpersonal skills. We are good interpersonal, we are good communicators both in digital and the real world. And we keep improving our interpersonal skills. Thank you so much for your participation and for your insights, experiences, ideas that you have just shared with us. And for others who weren't able maybe to share with us today, maybe next time you come up, and we look forward to that one. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anita, and thank you to all of our participants. So before we close our session today, I would like to remind you with some important notes. First, complete the assignment on the 2 Google Forms before March the 7th, and your assignment will be subjected to evaluation before we issue the certificate to your email. Second, your name on the assignment will be the one used in your certificate of completion, so make sure to input it correctly. Finally, we have shared in the chat box the links for assignment in today's PPTs, so please kindly download or save them to your window. We will send you the links again in an email early next week. Additionally, please also fill in our attendance link for today's section. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we appreciate you being here a lot. Kindly share the information of this free program to your colleagues and network so that it can make a greater impact on our regional education. We look forward to meeting you again soon, and goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So attendance, how we can fill up the attendance? You mentioned that we need to fill up the attendance now.
Yes, you should fill up the attendance check-in link that I have just sent into the chat box so that we will have your email, and later we will send you the link for the PPTs and assignments by email.
Yes, thank you.
Sama dengan tuan. Tuan.